everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we are going to review The Sound of Music, a 1965 American musical drama film produced and directed by Robert Wise and starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, with Richard Haydn, Peggy Wood, Charmian Carr, and Eleanor Parker. The film is an adaptation of the 1959 stage musical of the same name, composed by Richard Rodgers with lyrics by Oscar Hammerstein. It won 5 Academy Awards for directing, film editing, music, sound, and Best Picture. And as of December 2021, The Sound of Music was ranked the 6th highest grossing film in history, with earnings adjusted for inflation, bringing in over $2.3 billion worldwide. And for some, those tidbits will be enough to consider this movie a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the Wright Perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But let's start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Hi, I am Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest.
And y'all, I have to tell y'all, when it comes down to a voting symbol, this doesn't happen often, but I only have one recommendation for us, y'all, of a potential voting symbol.
What's your recommendation?
It's the Hills. Okay. Why? Not only are they alive, okay, with the sound of music, okay, it is because in the film, they symbolize possibility. They symbolize freedom. You know, one of the most iconic scenes in the movie is that Julie Andrews' character up in the hills, you know, just essentially just being full of joy, just loving nature, loving life. And it is that zest for life that makes her character so special and ultimately ill-equipped for nunhood. But, you know, she is just one of those people that was just so happy, so in pursuit of joy. And it was her own definition of joy, her own definition of bliss. And the hills, I think, were just used to kind of symbolize that. And I'll also say that the hills were a literal path to freedom in the movie. It was through the hills that the family made their way to safety when they were being pursued by the Nazis. And you know how, like, when we're talking about like a hood movie, we're like, the hood has to almost be a character in the movie for it to be a hood movie. I gotta say, Austria, you know,
is the hood. I like where you're going. Oh, that's not what you was going.
Okay. Not where I was going.
Because they had some hood stuff going on there, gang members and everything.
Oh my God.
The city Salzburg that was in it where it was recorded. It was a character. And it was almost like it was a character in the film because of how much they celebrated the scenery. And so for those reasons, I'm recommending the hills.
It was really recorded in
partially. Oh. They did a ton of scouting there. And you'd be surprised though to kind of see how they put it together. So for example, what we know as the back balcony of the house, where the Von Trapps were, it was actually a different location than where they shot the interior,
the front
of the house. And there were parts of the house that they had to recreate back in Hollywood. And, you know, to finish out the movie. So it was definitely talented. Filmed though on location.
People are so talented. And to think that they weren't doing that with like CGI and stuff like that.
And
like
drones. No. Listen. This is helicopters. They were in helicopters with cameras. Talking about go to the left, Bob.
This is why those old people have those stories. I trekked 10 miles in the snow to go to school. It's like I was dangling out the side of a helicopter filming a movie.
That's right.
Okay, then. Okay, you win. Because I'm gonna use a drone. So, you win.
Or just some footage I found online. And I'm going to use my top-notch software and boot myself one over to Austria. So that's my recommendation. Did y'all come up with any voting symbol ideas?
I think I'm sold on yours more. There were a couple of things that I was thinking of a chimney sweep, but nothing really.
A chimney sweep.
A chimney sweep. Did you go to Mary Poppins? What now?
Yes. This is live and recorded. Aubrey's confusing Julie Andrews movie.
I did confuse Julie Andrews movies. I'm so sorry.
Did you watch The Sound of Music?
It's a.
The hills.
Now, see, why I got to be that bad?
I don't know.
Why I got to be so bad that I didn't even watch the movie. Anyway, what happened is the sound of music sent me down a musical pathway, and I ended up watching several musicals.
Yes.
I ended up watching several musicals because I couldn't stop myself from watching Mary Poppins.
Been there.
After I watched other music. And so, and there were other musicals that it ended up being about a lot. It was a musical. It was a musical evening.
Well,
I say all that to say. So when I was contemplating,
I feel like if Aubrey was in a sitcom, it would be a montage of him like all day on the couch in different positions. At some point, he would have tissue crying. Like it would just be like, what? I was supposed to watch this one, and I watched.
There's parts of these musicals that'll get you in your feels. Like
they do.
When they were singing. When they were singing, when the Von Trapp family was singing the second "So Long Farewell," which I'm gonna tell you, as many times as we've watched this movie, I never noticed how much they got away with singing the same song. Like,
listen, I was waiting for us to talk about music.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me just say.
What?
Let me just say,
all hit you different each time.
Let me just say it was. Let me just say it was horrendous that I mixed up Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music.
The musical.
I apologize to the musical.
They forgive you.
Community. All 30 of us, because there's only like 30 or 35 of us.
I don't know about that, bro.
There's people.
There's a ton of musical people.
Oh, yeah.
There's people.
But a lot of them are just in hiding. They're in hiding.
I was talking.
I
was talking to one of my homeboys, right? And we were working out. And I'm usually very.
I love this already.
All right. Well, I don't usually talk about my musicals with my homeboys because musicals are so far out of their reality in most cases. But it was funny because we had this moment, like we're at the gym and, we're lifting and all of that stuff. And somehow, I don't remember exactly how, but the conversation got on the musicals somehow. And I said, well, do you like musicals? He's like, man, I love musicals. And I was just like, this could be some kind of skit. Like, I don't know how to pull it all out.
It's a certain group of people that are like, I'm going to sit here and watch this 3-hour movie that everything that's going on, they sing about it.
They sing about
A Flower, Edelweiss. Okay. Yeah. So
Brittany,
I'm going to sing it twice in the same movie.
That? Because it was important. It was important, Brittany. It was important. And before we get to it, look, we're not even going to get there yet. We'll go back to it, but just know it was important.
It was so important. I really did start to want to cry at that time. I was like, yo, this means so much to them right now. Mm-hmm. It means so much to them right now.
That could be, Watch and I expertly circle back to the point. That could be a voting symbol. You know,
It's
what
true.
about it? What about Edelweiss?
Edelweiss, a hill full of Edelweisses.
You know, Brittany, you always want to make the symbols of melange.
That'd be interesting melange.
Look, here's the thing. Genia made.
I think.
No. But I like the Edelweiss though. I like
because it was a symbol of Austria. It was also that particular song was the father singing it to the children was actually a breakthrough moment. It was him showing tenderness when Maria, the Julie Andrews character, had just started to change the energy in the household, and she was just starting to bring them together, and that was a major breakthrough moment for him. And again, it surfaced again when they were executing their top-notch plan to get away from the Nazis. So Edelweiss could be.
I think I like it. I think because here's the thing.
Could be the
I love the Hills. And you did a phenomenal.
They are
alive. You actually did a phenomenal job because and it started there and ended there, right? So it was definitely, but as a symbol, I like because it's a thing. Edelweiss is like I like it, and it came through organic conversation.
Totally,
we all love that too.
Well, I love that, and
you know why you love it, Brittany.
Why? You know why I love it.
You know why you love it.
Life is jazz. Edelweiss is jazz.
Edelweiss was jazz manifested.
It was.
I think that's it.
Well, y'all, that's it. That's it.
All right.
At the end of this podcast, the sound of music will receive 0, 1, 2, or 3 Edelweisses. Edelweiss blooms. Okay.
Edelweiss blooms, yes.
And, it has to receive 3 in order to be considered a classic from the Wright perspective. That's it. All right, y'all. Well, I feel like our discussion has already started. We're already into it. We're in there. Well, I'm going to make this recap quick, y'all, so we can get right back to it. If you are new to our podcast, we do a recap at the top. It is full spoilers, okay? But we do a quick recap at the top because our content is generally quite old, okay? And even if you have seen it, you probably haven't seen it in a while in many cases. And so, it's so funny, like, as I was just, doing high-level research for the podcast, they have already done the 50-year celebration for this movie, so it's been a minute. So we do a recap just to make sure we're all fresh. So I'll walk through it here. Our story takes place in Austria in 1938, and a young woman named Maria, played by Julie Andrews, is trying to realize her dream of becoming a nun, but she is horrible at it. Okay. She can't stop herself. She can't stop herself from saying whatever's on her mind. She can't stop herself from singing all the time. And she can't stop herself from running around in nature when she should be doing nunnish duties. Okay. And the nuns in the abbey, especially the head nun, played by Peggy Wood, genuinely love her and they want to make it work, but they are also exhausted with her inability to follow the rules. And they decide to send her away to become a governess for a retired Navy captain who is a widower with 7 kids that can't seem to keep a governess. Okay. The nuns hope that the assignment will give Maria a taste of life outside of the abbey so she can see if being a nun really is the right thing for her. And of course, Maria is intimidated by the assignment at first, but she's committed to doing a good job. And when she gets to the home of the Von Trapp family, and the father, played by Christopher Plummer, he essentially runs the household like a military base. He beckons the children with whistles. He keeps them on a rigid schedule. And then it turns out that he isn't even there a lot of the time because he's away in Vienna courting the Baroness. Okay. And the kids who are aged 5 to 16, they torture the staff of the house in part just to get some attention, Maria immediately understands why she is the 13th governess that they have had. And she decides that God has brought her to that house to bring joy back to the Von Trapp household and to restore the relationship between the father and the kids. Against the father's wishes, she teaches the kids to sing and takes them out all the time to play. And she quickly wins them over. And eventually, the father's heart starts to thaw a little, and he starts to fall for Maria right along with the kids. And as much as Maria tries to fight it because she knows it's inappropriate, she is starting to fall for Captain Von Trapp as well. And guess what? That is too bad for the Baroness, okay? Because the Baroness can see that her man is getting a little distracted, okay? The Baroness, who's played by Eleanor Parker, ends up confronting Maria and really making her feel bad about the feelings that are being exchanged between her and the captain, okay? Maria ends up fleeing the house in the night and returning to the Abbey, figuring it is better to just get out of that house before their feelings continue to grow. Surprisingly, the nuns disagree, okay? They send her back. And they say, essentially, that hiding from her truth is not the way to find it.
Oh, y'all, this movie. I can't wait to talk about it.
Okay. And so she goes back to the Von Trapp household. The kids are happy to see her. And so is the father, who calls off his engagement to the Baroness and asks Maria to marry him. She agrees and they get married. And while they are away on their honeymoon, the Nazi regime has taken over Austria, and they have actually summoned the captain to join their ranks. Okay, declining the invitation would be fatal for the entire family. Okay, but their values will not let them give in. So even though they were being watched very carefully, they decide to escape to Switzerland, okay, via a plan that included singing in a musical competition, getting some help from nuns in the Abbey, and a harrowing journey on foot through the mountains. And the movie ends with them in the mountains, safely on their way to neutral political territory. The end. Y'all, that
was recap, so good. You took me back through it.
Thank you. Y'all, that recap was brief, but this movie was 3 hours. Okay, 2 hours and 54 minutes. It was an
epic movie.
Okay.
The movie had to be long, though, because first of all, it was an epic movie in the sense of not a time frame, but what it covered was, it covered a lot. And the thing it's because I hadn't watched this movie in a long time, surprisingly. Like, it's been like most of the movies we watch and talk about, like, I will have watched them, periodically and stuff like that. But like this one, My Fair Lady, that's what me and my boys started talking about, because we were talking about Henry Higgins. That's how that conversation started. But anyway, so this movie, it was like I was watching it again for the first time. Like, I knew vaguely what was going on, but I really didn't know. And I knew that at the end, things go left, but I didn't know if they went left, like tragically go left, like somebody died. I couldn't remember. So I'm just saying it was interesting. And in watching it in that context, I realized that this movie could have been a movie without any of the songs. Like, the movie could have just been a movie. It could have just been a normal movie with and that's
such a good observation, bro. It's so good.
I'm not saying it's uncommon, but that's, most musicals are steeped in being a musical, where this one, it could have really, the plot could have been its own thing.
Bro, it's such a good point.
And so of course it had to be long, because you're just adding songs on top of that. But the other thing that I really appreciated about it was almost like two movies in one, because you could have, when they got married, that could have ended that movie.
Listen, legitimately what I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, this movie has two endings. Wow.
Yeah, because if you would have took out all the references to the Nazis in Austria, because there wasn't that many prior to the end, but if you took that out, it would have still been a whole movie, because it would have just been the love story. They would have got married, and that could have been the end. Like that could have been the end. But when they did go left, I found myself excited, because that could have been because you could have took out all the Nazi Austria parts, put them all together, and that could have been a short movie in and of itself. So I'm just saying, I don't see, like, even though it was long, it didn't feel like fluff.
Yeah.
And it felt,
How did you feel, sis? How did you feel about the length and the pace?
I thought it was perfect. I started watching it.
Really?
I did. I was like,
You're not surprised because she was texting us, y'all. Like, this movie is long.
I ain't say it wasn't long. Right. It was long.
Yeah.
But it was long in the sense of, I look up and I'm like, I started at 9 a.m. and it was 12:30. And I was like,
right.
Well, I started about 9:30. And I was like, it's already been, almost 3 hours.
Sure.
I was like, wow, this movie is long, but it's keeping my attention. You didn't feel it.
Yeah.
Everything that was happening, but also I was sharing this with Janiyah, was just that there's something about this movie that was really hitting home for me with the season of life I'm in. And normally movies go like really like social justice with me, or, I'm always looking for the in-between the line thing. But to see this movie really talk about that, things that were happening, I was like, oh, that makes sense to me on a spiritual level right now.
Yeah. Say more about that, sis. What specifically was resonating with you like that?
When she was going to, well, first of all, Julie Andrews Maria, walking in who she was. Like, despite her trying to be this type of thing, which was a nun, there was still something pulling her to be like, no, like, let me go sing on top of a mountain when I'm supposed to be at morning prayer. Right? Like, what is going on? And I also appreciated there being a woman, the head nun, being very like, and in an advisory role. It wasn't a finger pointing role like, you need to get it together, Maria.
Yes.
It was, you need that type of person in your life when you are trying to figure things out. There's an older person, they've been there before. They're like, listen, you need to figure out if this is what you want to do or not. So I'm gonna let's go ahead and go out. And also just hearing her in that song, because it's so crazy. Somewhere in my brain, I cut off the beginning, like 30 minutes of this movie. And when I was watching it, I was like, I don't remember any of this. I don't remember this nun song. I don't remember any of this. And I was like, okay, this is like so important. Listening to her, Maria sing that song on the way to the Von Trapp house about, I'm scared, I'm nervous, but I've always wanted something big. I've always wanted to do something grand. I always wanted to explore. So this is my time to explore. I was just like, yes. And then her going back to the house after she's falling in love with him, unbeknownst to her that she would do that. She's falling in love with this man. So I just love that it was genuine circumstances that just had them to start to fall in love with each other. Yeah. And she gets back, she runs away because let me tell you, that Baroness was coming up in there like, you're not about to mess up my rich situation, okay?
Baroness was rich on her own, she wanted that man.
Thank you. She wanted that man and she wanted his money because she went, as Uncle Max was talking about, they wanted to be super rich. Because I love, listen, Uncle Max's character was like, I love him so much. But at any rate, like, she was, through her snaky ways, basically, Maria leaves. And so she goes back, and Maria, because she was
Richard Haydn. Richard Haydn played Max Detweiler.
Maria leaving, she feels like she sinned because she's fallen in love. Some head nun could have been like, well, you did sin. Then the head nun goes, you do know that you can love a man and it's still the same type of love that you can like have for God. Like, that's still love.
Yeah, she said love between a man and a woman is also holy.
I said, listen here, head nun. Yeah. I don't know what your name is on this show, but
she was doing something that people in that position rarely do.
Mother Abbess. Mother Abbess, played by Peggy Wood.
Mother Abbess, shout out.
She was helping her discover her own truth instead of trying to impose a truth on her.
There you go. There you go.
You. And when she discovered, and then sang a song to her about the song, climbing every mountain.
Girl, go climb every mountain.
Ford every stream until you find your dream. So often we give people like, oh, the American dream is married, 2 kids, a dog. Okay. Like once you've made it there, you're done. So that leaves so many people on this trajectory. Like I've not made it because I don't have this dream. Why is that your dream? Or why is that the only one you have? You can have multiple ones.
Yes.
I was just like this, her encouraging her, and then even looking out into the window. You saw Mother Abbess, which I was like, I know she had to be somebody else at some point in time because she was an older woman in this movie. Watching her sing that song, it lets you know how she was living her dream, being this head nun and being like, I want everybody to experience
this level of completeness, this level of being in your ministry.
I said, I'm on a journey. I don't want to go to a nunnery and have to leave. I said, but I love what is happening in this musical. Okay, that is why. So I was sitting in my bed watching it like, oh my God, I'm about to fly.
And it was Mother Abbess, but it was that entire nun community.
It was.
I just thought about, gosh, isn't that what we all deserve? Don't we all deserve to have people around us that kind of say, listen, you got pros and cons, you, okay? But your pros are wonderful and we celebrate them. And you need to find a life that makes sense for you.
Yes.
Her entire community was rallying around her.
They had that line in the song, who can catch a moonbeam? I said,
they said, how do you solve a problem like Maria? And what they were basically saying is, how do you help someone that is so special also understand that they need a special path? You know, and to encourage them to lean into it and just find out what in the heck it is. And that whole community to me was so special. They even helped with the escape at the end. You know, Maria didn't have any other family. You know, when it came down to the wedding and it was like, the captain was like, do I need to ask anybody permission? You know, do you have any family? They went to the kids to ask permission for the marriage. But her family was, for all intents and purposes, it was the nun community. It was the people at that abbey. And they did whatever they could, including sending her away to try to help her find her bliss. So, sis, that part really resonated for me as well.
So good.
And
so good.
That is a good segue to just on this topic of like Maria and her relationships with people. You know, Maria comes into this household and she meets these children. Okay. And that was really interesting. Part of it was, as you said, sis, she was just going to be herself no matter where she was. In spite of wanting to, she didn't even want to be herself all the time. She can't help it. Okay. So she gets to this household, she's being herself, and she started this wonderful relationship with these kids. And, you know, so just wanting to kind of throw Maria's relationship with the children into the conversation. And in particular, wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on how sheltered those children were. And, so just want to throw that question out there. How did you all feel about this relationship between Maria and the kids and how it evolved?
I was cracking up at first. When Captain Von Trapp said, our last governess was here for 2 hours. I was like, need some Becky.
And you think it's the kids, but it's also him. His orientation was, here is the whistle symbol for each one of my children that I expect you to memorize. You like this to call the oldest.
And he was like, and when I need you, I'll make this sound.
She was like, what? Calling me like I'm a dog?
I'm gonna tell you, that was genuinely funny. And I know we're not talking about
yes, I was. There were some parts I was
the comedy
cracking up.
in the movie was actually funny. It wasn't
it was well done.
It's not like musical funny. It's like actual, like, yo, when he whistled and he was making up sounds. And she was like,
and he was like, this is what I would use to call you. And she said, oh, I could never respond to a whistle. I'd be humiliated.
And then how she communicated it, because it's like when she whistled at him.
Yes.
It was, I like things like that when one person does something to communicate the idea rather than just listening it out. Yes. And it was like there was no words that needed to be spoken because it was like, you saw how you felt when I whistled at you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, she whistled at him and then she said, oh, you didn't tell me how to call you with a whistle. What's your whistle? Right. And he said, you can call me Captain.
Oh, okay.
So you get a name.
But the rest of us get a whistle. Okay. Exactly. Okay. And I would have been there. I'm like, you do know all those noises you just made sound the same. Yeah. I don't know what is the difference. All these noises. But I just thought it was so funny. Them kids put a frog in her pocket. Those kids put a pine cone on a chair. I was like, these little mischievous, little cute children. They're so. But
she called them right out. She called them right out. You know,
and she did it though. In like, I'll say that her character speaks to me in a sense. To answer your question, Janai, like I find that in my life, walking unapologetically in my truth tends to work out. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you find yourself acquiescing to someone else's, just thought process based on the situation. You don't even realize that you're doing it. But like, nobody can ever catch you being you if you're just being yourself. And the thing is that you saw, there was just that moment where she's like, look, none of these people are going to make me not walk in my truth, including these kids.
Children.
And I'm a loving person. So there's no need for me to tattle on them and do all, when they put this pie code on and, they tricked me in different ways before, I'm just going to talk about how they welcome me. And that I'm sure they wanted me to feel great. And it was just like, I just love how when they were at the dinner table, her just walking even deeper in her truth was just breaking them one by one.
Totally.
They were just feeling so bad.
So that's why they started crying.
They were ashamed.
I was like, why they start crying? And I was
she put a guilt trip on them. She put a guilt trip on them because they had been pranking her literally since she walked in the door.
And she's like,
she sat down at dinner and said, oh, I just want to thank you all for such a warm welcome. You knew that I would be coming here, to a strange place and a house full of strange people wanting to fit in. And you did your part. You did your part to make sure that I felt real comfortable. I'm paraphrasing.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you notice, she never lies and the nuns never lie. But they will present the truth in an unapologetic manner that gets to the point. And that's just an effective way of communication, because the thing is that if she would have kept trying to break those kids, or like the other nuns, she would have just met resistance like everybody else did. But no, I'll allow you to realize what you're doing.
That's right.
I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to talk about how I was nervous walking in here. And it's just, and you could just see it about it. And it was just funny.
They were so embarrassed.
Comedically at the same time.
Yes.
Right. Because by the end, all of them were like,
exactly. And what was even more funny?
Table.
The Von Trapp, the dad wasn't like, why are you crying? He was just like still eating his dinner. I was just like,
well,
he knew.
If you notice, he brought it up
later on.
He knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's because he said when they talked about when they first fell in love with each other, he said when it was with the pine cone, because like she didn't even know that he knew about the pine cone.
Right.
But it was just him. It was just him seeing her handle this situation. Like he didn't help her or nothing. Mm-mm. It was just like, he just loved how she did it, and I think
this is a special woman to come here and help me with all 7 of these kids.
She's got to be able to hang in there.
But it was also funny because it also lets you see how, because she says she fell in love with him during the whistle, which you would have thought that is where she would have not liked him. But I'm like, she probably just saw that, okay, he's overzealous in certain ways, but ultimately this dude wants to, she could see his good qualities manifesting in ways. She saw
the reality. This was a man doing the best he could.
Right.
He had been successful in the military. He was now a father on his own. Yes. I'm going to run this house in a way that I know I can be successful. So it's one of those things where she just saw it and was like, this is so ridiculous. You are so doing a horrible job. How sweet. Like,
and the poor kids, they're just in line.
He really is trying. It's a horrible solution,
like,
but he's in it.
And listen, I loved so much watching all the kids come into her bedroom when it was storming. And then it was so innocent. The little girl, she was sitting there, she was like, I'm sure your brothers are going to be coming in. And the little girl's like, boys don't get scared. And then as soon as that next thunder came, they came running in the room. And the boy was like, we just wanted to make sure.
Can I tell y'all,
okay?
I actually struggle with it. I struggle with that scene.
Yeah, why?
I struggle with it because those kids were aged 5 through 16. Now, the 5, I will even take up to 10 years old, maybe, you scared of thunder. But by the time you 10 and a half, you need to figure out that that's thunder and you just need to keep it moving.
Well, that was one of the, it is a musical.
But they were so,
exactly.
But they were so innocent. And
maybe they don't have storms in Austria. Austria don't have storms. If you see the hills are alive with music, they don't have storms, okay?
I didn't know it was the first storm ever that they had experienced.
They didn't know what was going on. For me, in the lines.
Part of what I appreciated about like the relationship building in the movie, it made the length of the movie worthwhile because for the most part, you got to see the relationships evolve. Yeah. Her relationship with the kids, though, I felt like they rushed it in that scene. They used thunder for these, you too old to be scared of thunder, even in the most sheltered of life experiences. Even if you have only been around your brothers and sisters, you ain't been out here in these streets mingling with other kids, okay? You don't have the internet, okay?
Janelle,
you're the most sheltered of experiences.
You're not wrong, but it is a musical. You're not wrong.
But to me, all I could think of, they could have found another circumstance that would have been a more genuine reason for them to come to her for support. I don't want to go throwing deaths around, but a death in the family, like a family pet dying. Listen, I don't know.
That family pet got struck by lightning.
I'm glad you ain't writing this song.
Janelle wanted to add a new song.
Janelle's like, why couldn't the family dog have died?
From the lightning, they got struck, and then it was disoriented.
There's water in the back.
Into the
I don't
lake
know what happened.
And drowned. Okay, then.
This
you adding.
I am just saying there would have been a way to create a situation that they would come to her. And you know what? There was even one that was happening right there, which was the father was constantly leaving. And what we figured out from the conversations between Maria and the housekeeper is that sometimes he'd be gone for more than a month. Yeah. And when he leaves, he doesn't give an estimate on his return time. Okay, he just leaves. They don't know when he's coming back. That circumstance enough could have been a reason for them to rally around her. Like, can you maybe talk to him and see if you'll get him to stay? He is constantly leaving. That would have been enough. I just thought, really? Let's all run down to the lady's bedroom. We just met her.
No, I don't know. I see what you're saying, but I'm just like,
they were too old.
She's not wrong.
I'm saying though, but I think little kids, they use, because they're so kids. Well, and even into your preteens, right? Because you had the 16, then there was 14, and then all 13 and down. Kids, for the most part, so I'm thinking 13 and down, you're finding excuses not to go to sleep. You're finding reasons not to be in bed, to avoid your bedtime. Oh, I'm afraid of the thunder. Like, like part of me feels like that as well.
Okay.
That thing.
It was a little manufactured. Exactly. Oh, we just want to go check her out, kind of, maybe.
Exactly. But because it was just so funny how it was like, okay, just little groups of them just kind of coming in. And so I think about how it's also their mom has been gone for years. Yeah. And obviously their father is very militant and he's not always around. And so all of a sudden you're immediately connected to this woman because she made me cry at dinner. Mm-hmm. Like, who is this lady? Mm-hmm. I'm immediately seeing that she's different. Her heart is different. She's not like any of our other governesses. And as children who are literally being starved for attention, as they admit, we do these things because how else are we going to get our dad's attention?
Okay. All right, sis. You won me over. Like, you want me as a larger tactic of children to get attention. Now now I'm picking up what you're dropping. If it's one of those things where a kid, they were probably also still feeling a measure of guilt about their behavior when she arrived. So, and they didn't know how to express it. So they were just.
I definitely felt the same thing. Like I felt like they were, first of all, some of them were developmentally stunted at a certain point. Mm-hmm. Because and that could go all the way to adulthood. You remember listening to Michael Jackson talk, you felt like you were talking to somebody who was 5 a lot of times.
No life experiences.
The way he would and if you remember the way our kids don't play, like they don't, they didn't even own.
What is it? They walk around in meditation or something?
Yeah, they just had to do walks.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And so
she was like, let's sing. They were like, we don't know how to sing. I was like, oh my God. I can even get with the we don't know how to sing, by the way, because if you are truly isolated, you could actually never learn to sing. Like that's plausible. It was just that thunder where I was like, y'all are rushing this relationship.
I'm saying if I was me being the oldest, right? If there was a situation where you all, for whatever reason, like you all were congregating somewhere, I probably would have found my way there somehow. Mm-hmm. Now I wouldn't have been in the same way.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that I had a normal childhood though. So I'm just saying because to be honest, now I know exactly what you were talking about because it was a little in that scene, but the way
they were like ducking down when I was just like, you lost me. You lost me, Sound of Music, with this.
Listen, thunderstorms are very violent in Austria.
Well, let's talk about
the first one.
The first one, and they've been known to kill family pets. There's a lot going on with these.
And that's what Janaya didn't know is that the thunderstorm killed one of the pets, and that's why they were all in the wrong side.
It was post-traumatic. Yeah, see, y'all added these layers. This is the layers I needed to really be in that moment with those children.
And the family pet in the car.
Can we talk about
these kids are traumatized?
I want to ask you all, like I said, I haven't seen this in a while. And I didn't remember that they used the same songs over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say it made sense
Mm-hmm.
in the way, because like all families have things that they revisit.
That's right.
You know what I mean? How many times have we said in the monde? In the monde. You know,
In the
like
monde.
it's a thing we do. So it rang true. But there were times I'm like, yeah, we did kind of just hear this. I'm just curious, what did you all think about that? Or did you think about it at all?
I did think about it. I was cracking up. I said, I'm sorry. Is this the third time we're hearing about these hills being alive?
Right. It sounds like that's the third time that the hills are, them hills is really
just wanted
alive.
to circle back to the hills real quick. They're alive.
Is he on a guitar right now singing about Edelweiss again? I said, no. I said, now how did y'all get away with it? How did y'all get away?
You know what's so funny?
Don't sprinkle songs that let's sprinkle a new song in there. They won't know. And then we'll just circle back to the other song. Don't circle back. Don't circle back.
Didn't we do something recently where they didn't do it right? Where they kept reusing the songs and we were like, why are they reusing them? Because it wasn't effective. Oh, White Christmas. Okay, don't y'all remember in White Christmas, it was like, I'm just remembering our podcast conversation.
Okay, right.
Because
I'm trying to bring my brain back to
Because what they did in White Christmas is that they would have the song come up organically in conversation.
Oh, that's right.
But then it would also be a song
in the back. We did talk about that.
That they were doing on stage in their vaudeville show.
I do remember talking about
but wait, that was a song from your organic moment on the train.
Yes, right.
And so that was troubling for us. And so when I was watching them redo these songs, y'all, I'm going to tell you, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me
either. I was funny.
I knew it was happening, but I was in the hills as well. And I was like, you know what? We are still in these hills. Let's loop back. Okay. And then the other thing they were doing is introducing like a new verse sometimes. Like you get a couple of, like an additional little stanzas. So
a couple of words.
A couple of new little take on it. And then I think about the Edelweiss song in particular. And I'm really happy we landed on that as our voting symbol. I got to tell y'all, because there's a really interesting bit of trivia that I picked up on Edelweiss.
Here we go.
People,
Genia trivia, new segment.
Because of people watching Sound of Music, people thought that Edelweiss was the national song for Austria. And if you think about it, so the lyrics of that song, and I will tell you, I actually performed that song on stage in middle school when I was studying classical voice. Yes. And
that is probably why I was in my head singing Edelweiss.
Because you knew it already.
I knew it, and I just all the time. That is why, because I was like, why do I know this song? Like, what's going on here?
This song is really celebrating the flower. And if there are a lot of ways where you could use it. You could sexualize that song if you wanted. You can make it romantic, because you can make the flower an analogy for a lot of things. But there's a line in the song where he says, "Bless my homeland forever."
Mm-hmm.
And so that is when you start to realize, okay, in the context of this movie, where there's this secondary storyline of Austria's entire identity about to change, that song of kind of like clinging to what is precious to me and what I love. I love that it came up in the moment where his children, who were just starting to see the softer side of their father, they asked him to sing. And he sings Edelweiss. And he sang it with a kind of tenderness that was about the political moment, because that was clearly very present for him. It was coming up in his interactions with his professional colleagues, But it was also, to me, I felt something in it that was about his life before his first wife died. There was something so mournful in his singing in it. So then when they looped back to it again, it felt completely appropriate, because we were back in another moment of this forced transition, and I'm trying to hold on to what I love and what is sacred to me. So anyway, I every time they recycled, it felt appropriate, unlike in White Christmas, where it was like, why are y'all doing that?
Now, I felt myself almost crying whenever the kids were singing for the Baroness. And he walked in that door and it was almost like something hit him. Because you find out before then that there had been no singing and stuff like that in the house since the wife passed, because she was the one that was always doing that. And so when he walked into that room, it was almost like he stepped in and he transformed. Like, I don't know, I don't remember what song it was. And then the kids were looking at him as if they were looking at a ghost. Like,
they couldn't believe it.
They could not believe it. And in that moment, it was like, we got our dad back. We haven't seen him in at least 5 years. I think she had been dead. So I'm assuming she died during childbirth for the youngest one. They don't ever talk about how she passed away. But I remember them talking about that she's been gone for 5 years. And so I was like, okay, maybe that's what happened.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But
in my head, that's what it's going to be from now on.
It's not from thunder hitting the car. Okay. I mean, from lightning hitting the car from the something. Got it. But him, when he walked into that room, it was like, you know how you just get that sense of home?
Yes.
Like, it was almost like he was now back home in his own home. And I was just like, oh, this is intense right now.
And
this is intense.
And sis, I'm remembering what song the kids were singing. The Hills Are Alive.
Were they singing that song?
They were singing The Sound of Music. It was a reprise because they were like,
The Sound of Music.
The hill, and then you had the voice. Oh, don't you remember? Yes. It was like an operatic version.
That's right.
The Hills Are Alive with The Sound of Music. That was one of those reprises.
He was like, what is that? And she was like,
he
singing.
knew that song and he loved that song.
He loved that song.
The one that definitely hit me was when they first sang the Auf Wiedersehen song.
So Long Farewell.
I actually, when they first sang it at the end of the party, or when they were going to bed from the party, I was like, I don't know if this is weird or touching. I feel like it's both. Like I feel like I could say this is weird, I could say this is touching, and I wouldn't be lying either way. But but it was definitely just a little strange that everybody's crowded around looking at these kids singing. And
but don't you feel like you've seen like a lot of like pieces like before there was like television and like, where and like iPods everywhere, where like the kids are performing, they're doing recitals,
they're doing stuff
at family events. It's like, go little Billy and now play your violin,
But that even still happens in modern times now, because it's like, show us that dance. Show us that. Do that little. What's that thing? What's that app, y'all? Do that dance. Do that dance.
But y'all did, bro. On that scene though, did either of you think of the Cosbys at all? I got to tell you, I was watching the movie with my boyfriend, and I turned to him, and I was like, I got to say, I like what the Von Trapp kids are doing, but the Cosbys did it better. I literally said that because a family like singing to each other, what the first thing I think of is the Cosbys doing it. I gotta say, that's but
I mean, the Von Trapp sang though, and the Cosbys lip sang. So I don't know. The performance was better for the Cosbys, but the Von Trapps did sing. So I
forgot about that.
And that was really their voices, y'all. Those were their real voices. None of those were covers.
Let me tell you something. I don't know what the name of this talent agency was, honey.
It's when they brought it back though. When they brought it back at the end, that one. Well, not the. That one kind of got me. Ooh. Because when they were, again, I didn't remember exactly, but I knew what they were communicating, that our life is about to be different after this. We don't know what, and just the gravity of that. That corrected me.
Totally.
There was levity in this movie.
You should See, that's why you got to leave it in, Janai, because that would have been a great throwback. That would have been a great throwback to the previous
Well, now we have to
episode.
tell everybody because I did edit it out. In the last podcast recording,
I had a brain malfunction and I mixed up
like you did in this one earlier today with that chimney sweep.
And you know what? To be honest, with me working,
you need some of that giga galoba.
With me working on no sleep, I am so impressed how well I'm doing.
Bro, you really didn't go to sleep for watching musicals?
You know how it happens sometimes, man. You know, it's just like, it was like,
you're in it.
Like you get in it, and then there's a point of no return where you're like, you know what?
I'm going.
It's going to be worse than 2 hours.
Binge watching some shows.
Let's just keep it going. But what I'm trying to say is just record. But anyway, I had mixed up levity and gravity. Janai corrected me, and I was
then
just talking
edited
about
the whole thing out, so nobody would know.
She edited the whole thing out. But I'm just saying it would have been funny.
That wasn't Janai living in jazz. She wasn't living in jazz when she edited that out.
To classical.
She went back to classical. She went back to that Edelweiss.
But it doesn't matter, Brittany, because Janaya is getting more in it. You getting us both into the jazz. We're both getting better.
You're welcome.
We're both getting better, Britt.
You're welcome.
We're both getting better.
It's true.
So,
that's true.
But I mean, for real though, when you recognize how heavy that is right there.
Yes.
Like that, whatever's happening, because either they're going to get caught or they're going to go away.
That's right.
Either way, everything is different. From and just you can see it on their faces that they don't quite know what's going on, but they know.
And the kids definitely don't know what's going on. In this scene where they're fleeing for their lives, one of the kids that's again too old to be clueless, she goes, maybe it's that red flag with the spider on it that's getting everybody so nervous. I said, she was too old. She was the 10 or 12. Listen, all I know is,
but if your parents aren't telling you that there are Nazis who are going around and trying to exterminate a whole group of people,
here's my thing.
If they're not, and you know that Uncle Max wasn't telling them. Uncle Max was trying to get money.
Here's the point you're missing here. Okay. These kids. Okay. Listen, how are you going to be there? Okay. Your whole country is about to be taken over and your parents ain't sat you down to even let you know what symbols to look for. I just felt like, my gosh, these children are so ill-equipped. And then this in processing it, I thought to myself, that is part of privilege. That's part of their wealth. That's part of the fact that they had the privilege to be so isolated. Because you better believe there's some kids that are out there in the market right now that have no choice but to know what is going on. And so there's a level.
So then it ring true then.
That's how I talk myself into being fine with it.
Okay, I got you.
Because I was like, you know what? She's going to shape her mouth. She don't even know. So I just thought to myself, there was a takeaway for me there. That is, it goes back to these conversations that I feel like we've had these conversations about, how important it is to try to help children to be innocent as long as you can. But we know that for some people, the realities of life are going to come and get you no matter what.
Like it or not.
Exactly. So like we always talk about like for, and it's, this is common knowledge. It's talked about all the time that for children of color in America, they have to start to understand race and they have to start to understand difference and they have to start to understand economics and social hierarchy. They have to understand it because it ends up becoming a part of survival very, very early on. And so as I was watching these kids be able to literally sit in this fraught time in world history and have no idea what was going on, I thought that is such privilege. And so, yeah, it was realistic to me, but I just thought it was worth noting, and it does make me think about how do you handle that? Do you wait until you have no choice but to let your child know about a hard truth? Or do you tell them in advance so that they can be equipped? There will be thunderstorms. it will be loud. You don't need to go flee into somebody's room because of a sound. Okay.
I hear you against this, but I'm also thinking about
our
that
country is about
man.
to be taken over. Let's talk about the possible implications and how things could change.
But if you have a father, first of all, they was on a honeymoon for a month. I said, well, listen,
it had been looming. That's
some kind of love. But I'm also thinking about that man that was now the head of being the Nazi man in Austria. I don't know what he's called. We'll call him the Nazi.
That was
butthead.
probably his official title. Head Nazi man of Austria.
Nazi butthead. So the head Nazi butthead, he was walking around talking about, this is still the same Austria. We need to know that this Austria has not changed. It is normal Salzburg. It's normal. And so he was so bent on doing that. This is how children are influenced outside of the house,
Herr Zeller.
They're so influenced. And so if you have an uncle who he doesn't agree with it, but he also is not someone that's going to go against it because he doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want to be up in it. So he's doing his little like half Heil Hitler, whatever you're talking about. And then you have a father who was like, that's some BS. I don't agree with it. You're, as a child who is literally stuck in the house, unless your governess is there and letting you climb in trees, you are literally not talking about this.
You're insulated, isolated. You're out of the loop.
And as so many times, like I will listen to
Ben Wright played Herr Zeller.
Ben Wright. I will listen. He did a good job because I hated him. Oh. I will listen to different podcasts and stuff like that. And to hear people who are in their 30s just now figure out what colorism is. Like it can really happen even in our modern time when you have access to everything. You can literally walk around ignorant. So when I think about a 10-year-old going, is that have to do with that, with the flag with the spider on it? I'm like, that does look like, when she said it, I was like, it does look like a spider. That does look like a spider. And let me tell you, they're awesome spiders, girl. They're coming up in there to bite you. So I was just like, yes. Yeah. This made sense in a sense of these kids are innocent. A large part of their life has been taken away. They have been they've been in prison for at least 5 years. Yeah. So if the Nazis have been coming in for that time, there has been no conversation about that. And the governesses that have been there, they're so busy just trying to get them in line and learn all the whistle noises that they don't even have time to tell you, oh, by the way, some people who are trying to exterminate a whole group of people, they're about to take us over. Okay. Yeah. It's like there's no time to even have that conversation because your daddy's not going to have it with you. And then obviously the Judas in the house is not going to have it with you, going to be standing in the window. The butler. I said, I hope you choke on something this evening. I was like, these people were just getting away. And I just could not. That part, that made me so mad.
Yeah, the butler was a Nazi sympathizer and truly was undermining the family's efforts to be free. And he was clearly a mole. He was a mole in the household. They made that very clear for us. And I appreciated them doing that, you know?
That's how it was. And of course, you can see, you know, even when the young guy, he got indoctrinated pretty quickly. Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean.
The teen, Rolf.
Oh, it was Rolf. I thought his name was Ralph. I made it American.
But that's how people
But it's Rolf, and his name was Dan. The actor was Daniel. I think it's True Hitty is how it's probably pronounced, or True Height maybe. But he played Rolf, and so, bro, you were just talking about how he got indoctrinated.
Yeah. I mean, and then, you know, there's survival in there.
Totally. Because he obviously wasn't a privileged child like Lysel, the 16-year-old daughter. It was his love interest.
Listen, he had a job.
Did you all have a favorite musical number in the movie?
Man, that's tough. That's hard. I think that I had an emotional connection to the nun singing that song because I was like, that nun is singing to me right now. I was like, I'm
Remember mother was talking to you?
Brittany was like, I sure will.
I'm afford every string.
I'm afford that string. That's right.
Thank you, Mother Abbess.
That's right. I would say, so, and this is actually another discussion point when I tell you this, but my actual answer, because there was that very tender moment when, because I appreciated that Captain Von Trapp, he broke up with the Baroness before he made any kind of overt move on Maria. They had some moments, but he never just was like, I'm into you, girl, or anything along those lines.
How would he have said it?
I'm into you, girl.
Hey, baby boo.
He didn't do any hey, baby boo.
Hey, baby boo.
And so because there had been no other moments where they had been explicit about their growing feelings, their first moment of being explicit about their growing feelings to each other was in the gazebo after he has broken up with the Baroness. And he comes to her. She's realizing, you know what? The nuns have sent me back here to see if being in love with this man is a part of my journey that I should pursue. He's now engaged to the Baroness. I can't even dig in here and see what's going on. I have to let this go. I've missed this window. It's obviously not what God has in store for me. She's grappling with that. When he comes to tell her out in the garden near the gazebo, oh, I done broke up with the Baroness, and I'm in love with you. And so they sing a song to each other where they are just so overjoyed with their shared emotion. She starts it off and she basically says, listen, I know my childhood was sketchy, she said, but I must have done something right. Somewhere in my childhood, somewhere in my youth, I must have done something right if my life has led me here to this moment and to be with you. If I had been blessed to find you, I must have done something right. And then he sings it back to her. I must have done something right in my life and in my childhood. And to be here in this moment with you right now. So that's what I'm going to say.
Ain't nobody ever saying that to me. Nobody ever saying that to me.
Yeah, girl, you just got to climb every mountain.
Listen.
Every stream.
That's too much. I don't even like streams.
You could do a river. You could do a river.
Thank you.
It don't gotta be a stream. But I love that. And one of the questions actually, so this was a debate that James and I had. James was saying that he didn't feel like they had necessarily done enough work to let us see a relationship progression between Captain Von Trapp and Maria. Like, we got to see Captain Von Trapp evolve in his parenting as a result of her. But we did not see very many moments of them falling for each other. They danced together once. They locked eyes a couple of times. But he felt like there wasn't a progression in their being taken with each other. And for me, that one song was enough. So I know we're in the middle of answer your question, bro, about the favorite.
But it's like, didn't you just say earlier, what were you talking about? There wasn't enough development.
I thought they rushed the kids into intimacy with Maria through the
thunderstorm. But you were okay with this one.
I not only was I okay with it, I loved it because you know what, man? All I'm saying is just people in general. When people are already exploring another avenue before they have wrapped up the current avenue they're on, I don't appreciate it. And so I appreciate that he broke up with the Baroness. And even when he was breaking up with the Baroness, he didn't say, I'm breaking up with you for her. For
me, I don't think him breaking, the way I saw it, I don't think him breaking up with the Baroness had anything to do with Maria.
I agree with you. I agree with you. So while he was with the Baroness, though, he was honoring that. And so,
I know, but I'm saying I don't think he was, it's not like he was weighing these two options. Like I don't even think Maria, to him, she was a nun. Like that wasn't even a possibility.
Even when they were dancing, bro, you don't think he considered it?
I think that I think like he was just realizing the Baroness wasn't it. And for me, because like when she was playing ball with
I didn't know what you about to say.
Yo, she was playing, she was so
at it.
And the kids were like, what is this?
He was like, I'm right. She was like 4. He was like, I'm number 5.
Like this
I was like, these children about to put a frog in your pocket, girl. They're going to put a frog in your pocket.
What I'm saying is so like, to me, the order of how it happened was just him realizing the Baron, like, this is not it. And I think that it's the difference, and we've talked about this in other movies, I think it's the difference of checking boxes, which the Baroness checked all the boxes.
Absolutely.
And the magic. And what I'm saying is magic doesn't take time, especially in movies. Like, just like you think about West Side Story. Maria and Tony met each other one time. They didn't even know each other's last name. Like,
and Tony going
to the Hispanic part of town looking for Maria. Like, what? That doesn't even make...
Screaming her name. Like, people are asleep.
It was funny. It was funny that somebody on some meme or something said the most unbelievable thing is only one person popping out the window in that neighborhood when you call it a name. You know what I'm saying? But the point I was just trying to make is that, especially in movie time, like, it was just there.
Yeah.
And I think it all happened in that moment because I don't think that I think he just looked at her as a nun. And then it was like all in that moment in the gazebo, which their gazebo scene was great, but I also liked the gazebo scene with Rolf and what's her name?
The oldest.
Didn't love it. Lysol.
I thought it was a good dance. I thought it was cool, but
I appreciated the choreography of it. No, I did appreciate that.
I thought it was a good dance, but I don't want to sound like I'm putting it on a level of...
Oh, I have a little trivia real quick about that.
Give us some trivia, G.
She fell while they were recording that scene in that gazebo and sprained her ankle. But she muscled through and finished it. And when they finished recording the scene, the crew gave her a standing ovation because she was playing through the pain. You know? And then the other thing about that gazebo is there were actually 2 gazebos. There was the gazebo that was used for the filming that we were talking about of the adult couple. But the gazebo that was used for the filming of the scene with the teens, that actual gazebo is still in Salzburg, Austria, and is now it's a tourist attraction.
Wow.
Well, Genia,
and it was originally on the lot in Hollywood and was brought over to Salzburg and is now a tourist attraction.
I'm enjoying Genia trivia so far.
Listen, really I almost want us to do a Wright Perspective in Salzburg.
Now I need to go take a picture in that gazebo.
Right. Well, we legitimately need to take a trip. Like
legit need to go.
Listen, I will tell you, I felt like there was a progression. And I felt like he saw her as a nun, but he was conflicted. Like, I'm looking into your eyes during this dance and I am clearly feeling something. And I know you're feeling it too. And the little girl called her out. She was like, your face is red. She was like, it is. Because they were, and even the Baroness called it out when she was going up there doing her little trickery. She was like, he thinks he's in love with you. But she's saying that to Maria to trick her to leave. But in real life, she's saying to herself, this man is in love with you. I need to get you out of here because you're competition. And I
definitely feel like he had the attraction. I'm saying the way it read to me is that he never considered it as an option. Like I don't think he didn't even know she was back until he saw her there. You know what I mean? Like until, because he didn't know she was coming back. So like that whole gazebo, all of that happened at once. It was kind of like before it's like, you know what? I know this kind of.
I appreciate that.
Because here's the thing. You can understand what's available. So like, he can realize like, yo, this is the kind of feeling I should be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's not
right there, bro.
Even if it's not going to be with her.
Yeah.
But like, how can I know this type of feeling exists?
Totally.
And then I don't, so I don't know what I'm going to do, but I know it's not this. Like and then it was like, when Maria was there, it was like, oh, well, yeah, so now we can, so now we can do it.
But the Baroness actually had a hand in that, because the Baroness, when he was like trying to break up with her, she stopped him so she could break up with him first.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, she did right. She did, but she also said
at the end,
she was like, also you have she was like, and I don't think that there's going to be a nun. And it was like, I don't think that there's going to be a new nun or something like that. Someone's not going to be a nun.
Yeah.
As if to say like,
I know where this is going.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Baroness know that she had come back?
They all knew that she had come back.
Except for...
No, he knew. Because remember when she ran up and the kids gave her a hug, he was outside and they were talking.
Okay,
and he was like, you're back. And I love that part when she had said to him, please don't ask me that question. Like why I'm back.
Because she didn't want to lie.
She didn't want to lie. She said, please don't ask me that question. And I was like, girl, don't let him ask it. Girl, don't let him ask it. Because
and I'm sitting here, ask it again.
Please say something. But that's why when he came outside and sat down with her, he was like, he asked her the question, why are you back here? Why did you? Because he was like, oh, you about to give me some answers.
Oh my gosh.
You're about to give me some answers.
I wanted to shout out, because I didn't give the name. We were talking about Lysol, who danced through the pain.
Come on, Lysol.
The actress is Charmian Carr. And also, I think I said the Baroness's name earlier. Baroness Elsa von Schroeder was played by Eleanor Parker. And she played that part.
Listen, and whoever did her hair for that movie did her hair. Because, baby, them curlicues was the same. They was in equal distance. I said, go on, curlicues.
I was laughing out loud when they were playing ball, when she was trying.
She was so awkward.
And it was so good. It was so, because it was just such a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
And just like, it's just interesting, man.
She was ready to send them kids to boarding school.
She sure was.
Oh, them kids was about to be so good.
I mean, they were going to be gone. I was just like, why is this always what this rich woman comes in? The person has kids. It's in so many movies where it's like, yep, and I'm going to send them to boarding school. I'm just like, why are y'all always trying to get rid of these kids? Like, I mean, there are a lot of them. That's 7 people, but
I took us down a path when, bro, you had asked us what our favorite numbers were.
No, that's good.
Did you answer?
What's going on right now?
What?
Brittany, what is going on right now?
What's
going on? We started with my question, but what happened?
Yeah, I got scared. I was like, wait, what happened? I thought I was frozen when you were asking.
No.
Zibbity-bee-bop.
And then once again, I wanted to be opera, and I'm like, let's get back on track. There's an open item on the table.
Let's because I did want to talk about my favorite. I did want to talk about my favorite. My favorite was Do a Dare. Like I really,
Bro, why are you surprised? Your voice kind of says that you're surprised by it. Like you wouldn't expect.
Not surprised that I enjoyed it. Yeah. Surprised that I enjoyed it on the level that I enjoyed it.
Got it.
Like it was like I was really having fun watching them. Even the corny setup had me excited because she was just like, let me make this easier for you.
Yes.
I'm like,
she did.
Yes, Julie Andrews, make it easy for us.
What a good governess.
You're such a good governess.
Gosh. Yes.
No,
I like what you do there.
Yes.
That whole kids were so talented. They were so talented. Can we talk? Okay, can I transition this into another
transition?
I just got to talk about how these were the original Sister Act nuns. Let me tell you something. When they said to that lady, "Mother, we have sinned," and they pulled out the cards underneath it, I loved it so much.
That made me laugh. And look, that was one part I remembered.
Yes.
And I was like waiting for it, and it still made me laugh. Because out of all of the movie, that was the part I remembered. Because like that used to crack us up back in the day.
Yeah.
But when they pulled out
and they pulled out the perfect parts that still allowed the lights to come on and allowed the car to do the like they knew exactly what to pull out of the car so them cars wouldn't go. I was so
my gosh, that was so funny.
Like, I love these nuns.
They would not have gotten away. And you know what? And they did that preemptively. They did not know that a car chase necessarily was going to ensue.
Just the case.
But they were like,
I think they needed some car trouble no matter what. No matter how this situation, y'all need some car trouble.
They don't need to just scoot right on out of here.
Y'all need some car trouble, Nazis. Y'all going to have to at least call AAA. Y'all going to at least have to call.
At a minimum, you call it AAA.
At a minimum, you call it AAA.
That was our relationship that they had with God, them nuns. God was like, go mess these cars up. That's what they were somewhere in deep prayer. And they were like, oh, I need to go mess these cars up right quick. Because I was just cracking up, and I just loved how even their song, when they were singing in the beginning about Maria, which Janelle was talking about it earlier, I just love because it made, when you see nuns, there's this automatic, like, they're very stoic. You don't talk to them, but these just seem like women who had chosen this life.
That's right.
And they were happy, and they just enjoyed themselves, and they love protecting people.
And did y'all know this was based on a true story?
Wow. I did not know that.
I feel like ashamed that I didn't know that.
Listen, but you know what? For us,
I'm really ashamed. I feel like I should have known that.
Y'all,
wow.
I know. I'm
going to YouTube immediately once we finish.
You got to, okay? And it was actually based on a book. The Story of the Trapp Family Singers by who? The real Maria von Trapp. Okay. It was a memoir from 1949. Okay. And so essentially she was sent, she was I think by the age of 6, both of her parents had passed away.
Wow.
And she did ultimately make her way to an abbey, and she was in training to be a nun. And she ended up getting sent to the villa of a retired naval officer. And but she was sent as a tutor, not a governess. So, they didn't follow the facts.
Right.
They didn't follow the facts exactly. You know what I mean? But she was there to be a tutor. They did ultimately become a singing group as a family. And I believe, though, that their race from the Nazis happened after they were an established singing group. I could be, I didn't spend as much time digging into that. But it's important for people to know Maria von Trapp was a real person. And she actually did a cameo in the film.
What?
Okay. Now, it's the scene where I think Brittany was getting her life. Okay. When Maria was first on her way to the house to get the Von Trapp, and she's traipsing through the town, getting her confidence up, talking about, I'm about to go in here and do what I have to do. I'm about to show them who I am. I'm going to be myself. She's in the background, just doing a quick cameo. And I think what it was is they weren't expecting her on site. She came at an unexpected moment. And I watched an interview with Julie Andrews, and she said that she was just completely delightful. And the family, the Von Trapp family, they were overall very happy with the movie and their portrayals. There were certain things that they didn't want in there, but they didn't actually have rights to the story at that point, because the actual rights to the story had changed hands multiple times by the time the movie was being made in Hollywood. So they didn't have the rights. For our audio listeners, Aubrey has just changed his background to say Channel 9. because his mind just got
Listen,
which is the place their mother is.
I'm so happy that you explained that. I was like, what's wrong with Aubrey's background? Oh no,
That's
it changed.
9.
That's Channel 9. Yeah, that's Channel 9.
I've been saving this for months. I just
It's the right moment.
I've been saving it for months. I've been waiting. There have been times I've been close. There have been times I've been close. But now my mind is, you know where it is.
So wait, but I know we're about to vote. Please don't. There are 2 things I got to put out there before we vote. I didn't want to stop you from what you were saying.
No, that was basically it. I just wanted to honor that this was a true story of a family that had been fictionalized. Many components of it have been fictionalized, but we couldn't name that the original musical and the movie, they both came from a real family. The Von Trapp family singers were a real group.
Are you 100% sure that she was in that scene?
Yes.
Like it said she was in that scene?
Yeah.
But Janelle wouldn't have said it. Janelle wouldn't have said it unless she was.
Because I saw that on the trivia that you heard on today's podcast. I got part of it from IMDb. I got part of it from an actual interview with Julie Andrews that was on the 50th anniversary edition of The Sound of Music, where she went back to Salzburg. And she was actually there. She went back to the Abbey where parts of the movie was filmed, talked to the nuns there. Okay. She's walking around. She goes and looks at the tourist attractions that are now in Salzburg as a result of the movie. She goes to the Marionette Theater. There's a historic Marionette Theater in Salzburg that existed before the movie. It was already historic and world-renowned. And that's why they did the marionette scene with the kids in the movie.
So
it was to honor
what I was about to bring up.
The Marionette Theater in Salzburg.
Okay. That was going to be like, we cannot, that was a whole, I don't know if any other musical has done that. I'm sure there is. But that was a whole scene where they're using these marionettes and they are singing. Yeah. And I was just like, this is so creative.
And they really did it.
Good.
They really did the
the children really did it? See, that
you're
makes
telling me the
better.
Kids controlled those.
Julie Andrews in that interview, she was talking about how exhausting it was for all of them to be up there doing the marionette. She was talking with the current proprietor, or the proprietor at the time of the 50th anniversary. She was talking with the proprietor of the Marionette Theater, and she was reflecting on her experience of doing that scene and having to actually work the puppets. Her and the kids were working the puppets. Now, could they have potentially also had some help? I think that's possible.
Sure.
But she was naming the hard work that they did and how exhausting it was for them to work the puppets. So they were working those puppets.
Wow. Listen, because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up before we ended, because I thought that scene went so well.
And the puppets were like amazing.
They did such a good job.
The puppets themselves.
Let me shout out the makers of the. Keep going, sis. But I have the names of the makers of the puppets.
They did a great job. And then I also just wanted to name how when you are in a genuine space with someone, a genuine love with someone, which I believe that Maria and Captain, I don't know his real name.
Von Trapp.
Thank you. We'll just call him Von Trapp.
Captain Von Trapp.
Captain Von Trapp. When you are in a real space of love, it's something about a trust that happens there, where there are no questions that make you go, oh, well, maybe, there was none. When he was like, he got the letter, he got the telegram about, listen, bring your tail. You're in the Nazis. And he didn't respond, but he got her. He said, listen, they want me to go. And she's like, I thought that this was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to happen so soon. And that also them being connected that way. And he's like, listen, we got to gather the kids tonight. We have to leave. So gather the kids up. There was no question in her mind.
Nope.
It was like, we're gathering the kids. I'm packing a couple of clothes for them and we're leaving. And then even when it came down to, she voiced her concern like, what about the children when we're going to be walking up this hill because they're going to have to do the rest by foot to get into Switzerland? He said, they'll be fine. We'll help them. There was no question. when you have that type of love and trust and concern about each other and then your entire family, like you can literally, the hills do feel alive. Like, you can feel like you can move a mountain when you have that, because literally now the stuff that we had in the car that we were going to drive away with, they don't have any of that. They're literally going into Switzerland with just the clothes on their back. That is it. Like they're not going there with stuff. And I'm just thinking, I want that kind of love.
Yeah.
Where if I am like, I don't have anything else, but as long as my family is safe, as long as we are together, like I feel that right now for my immediate family, for my siblings, we have end of the world conversations sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And we always talk about how, I mean, if the world is ending, we at least want to be together while it's ending. And so I think about that, just how that is, even to keep the kids secure. The one little girl in her little innocence, Greta, with her little 5-year-old self, she was like, we're scared. She was like, this is scary. She was like, should we sing our favorite things? I was like, this is so cute.
And she was like, no, now is not the right time.
And I know, Brittany, I know this ain't the point of it, but you brought it there. That scene, I felt real tension. Like I felt, because I knew, like I said, I forgot what happened, but I knew something happened. Yeah. I was like, is somebody about to die? Like I was just like, and they were just building it so perfectly. So it's just, and you know, with the fact that it was based on a true story, makes it make sense. It makes it. That's why the story is so good. At its
heart, they fictionalized a lot of pieces, but at its heart, that was a true story.
Listen,
and really quick, the Marionettes were by Bill Baird. Okay.
Shout out to you, Bill Baird.
The Lonely Goat Herd Marionettes, and those puppets are now in a museum in Iowa.
Oh. And where?
Iowa. Mason City, Iowa.
Of all places. Okay, Iowa. Shout out.
I'll be down Mason all the time.
That scene was filmed in Hollywood. That's the thing. So that ornate room that had like the gold walls, the gold and gray walls. Yeah, they were inspired by something that they had found, a beautiful room that they had found on a scouting trip while in Salzburg. But they recreated it in Hollywood. So that whole scene happened in Hollywood, the Marionette scene.
So good. I wanted to say about Rolf and how impressionable people are. We talked about it earlier, but I think about so many people right now who are misguided. Now, imagine that, being misguided and being infiltrated with negative, horrible information just from people coming and scouting you out. Okay, you went from this little Telegram guy to now you're talking about hell, Hitler, whatever they say. Now, here you are, 1 second, you're just sweet. I am 16, going on 17. I am 17. And now this girl that you were in love with, this has infiltrated your mind totally to the point where you can't even see yourself. And in that moment when Von Trapp was talking to him and saying, and was able to get the gun from him, I wanted so bad for him to go jump in that car, just squeeze in the back and just jump in that car,
but you know and what?
Go with them.
You know what? It's so funny. Your interpretation of what was happening with Rolf, I love that. You're talking about him being brainwashed. In that moment, what I experienced was Rolf doing what he had to do, because he's not like the Von Trapp children. He don't get to think it's a red flag with a spider on it. He's out here in these streets. He's literally a messenger boy, which lets us know about his family's circumstance. Listen. And I thought that in that moment when he was considering letting them go, what I thought was flashing over his face was, I could be killed for this. My family could be killed for this. And no matter how much I want to be here for this family, I got my own stakes I got to worry about. I don't get to be a kid in a gazebo singing about delivering mail anymore. I have to do what I'm told right now, or I could die. Woo. So what I saw flashing across his face was his innocence. Whatever was left, gone. And then he calls out to the Nazis to come. And y'all, I know we have to go. We have to wrap. Y'all, I want to give y'all just a few more quick little nuggets, because there's so much, because the movie has been so celebrated. There's so much trivia out there. There's so many interesting factoids. Of the 7 actors and actresses that played the Von Trapp children, 5 were from the United States, 1 was from Canada, and 1 was from England. What made me look that up? Those accents were all over the place. I was like, where are y'all from, children? Okay.
Some of y'all from Germany. Some of y'all from Austria. Some of y'all are from down the street.
The other thing that I thought was so interesting is, so in for the real Von Trapp family, they did not go to Switzerland. They went to Italy and then went where? To the United States. And so their experience, like there's a lot of the storytelling of them as singers, as a singing family that was here in these United States. They came to America. Wow. So there's just a lot out there for us to uncover. Well, let's vote.
This movie is not, like, to me, is not only a classic, it's way higher of a classic. Mm-hmm. My level of it being a classic progressed as we talked, especially as Janai added all the, and it makes sense because the story is so much better than musical stories normally are. Mm-hmm. So it just makes sense. So yes, it absolutely gets my Edelweiss. And if I could sing it, I would sing it for y'all.
I'll do it. Edelweiss. We'll do it another time. But
it was so good.
It
was so good. Yeah. I imagined you on a mountain.
I was.
The hills were alive.
Listen,
y'all, can I tell you my very honest memory of this movie was it being corny.
Really?
Yes, it was. Not that because listen, nobody loves corny more than this girl. So it wasn't like a bad, this is corny, grumble. But I just remembered it being corny. And so,
what was it? Corny, grumble.
It was not corny, grumble. It was just corny in my memory banks. And
I don't want it to be grumble.
Listen, well, I'm the one that watches Lifetime movies with true gusto. So I don't mind corny. I don't.
She loves it.
I will tell you, and so when I was recalling it as corny, and then also seeing that it was 2 hours and 54 minutes long, I said, okay, this is too much. Why is it 3 hours? So that was my feeling going into the viewing. I was so delighted to have that memory, that sentiment dispelled. This was not a corny movie. Now, have we talked in this discussion about a few of the moments that didn't resonate for me completely in terms of, like, if you're going to take 3 hours, don't miss opportunities. Okay. Don't be truthful 95% of the time. And then 5%, I'm like, oh, come on. So there were missed opportunities. I'm not going to lie. But the movie for me, it felt truthful. It felt like we had a level of investment in the whole family. This movie could have been done in a way where we were only invested in the romantic love story and only invested in Maria, or only invested in the Von Trapps. No, this story was written in a way that had us invested in the whole family. Not only were we invested in the family, we were also invested in the nuns. We were able to build relationship with everybody at that abbey. Okay. We were invested in Rolf. He was a messenger that was in the film 3 times, in and out. But because of how well his parts were written and how well he portrayed them, we were invested even in that character. So that, to me, that's good writing. Okay. The songs, again, they moved the story along. Even when they were reprised, it was done in a way that moved the story. It wasn't for the sake of, better get a dance number in here.
Right.
There were even periods of time where they went really long without a song being sung. And that's when I was like, oh, they ain't just in it for putting a story together for the sake of holding songs. Which, again, y'all remember we were watching White Christmas and it was like, did they just build this story to hold the songs? It kind of felt like it. this didn't do that for me. It was like, gosh, this is a story that the songs are helping to elevate and flesh out. And the last reason, again, I was really pleasantly surprised was to see how much depth Julie Andrews brought to this character. And don't get it twisted, I am a person, I enjoy Julie Andrews. I watched a 1-hour special of hers this weekend, you know what I mean? Of her talking about Sound of Music. I like Julie Andrews. I've seen all of her stuff, even her children's programming, okay? But I also did not recall this character as being as nuanced as it was. And I just remembered it being like, you know, this flighty chick who ended up having good rapport with the kids and then ultimately falling in love with the father. That's not what it was. This was a woman on her journey. Okay. And Julie Andrews brought so much depth to that character that we were on that struggle with her, for her trying to figure out her identity and what is true and how to honor God in her life in a way that was correct. And I just thought, gosh, she is playing the HE double hockey sticks out of this role. So I was pleasantly surprised in all of the ways that make me able to say, yes, this movie does get my Edelweiss.
Listen, well, how do you come behind that? Let me go get my fireworks ready. See, I'm trying to figure out how to come behind that. I will say, you guys, you all know, people who have been watching our podcast, that I've said that Grease is my favorite musical. And even if they're 75 in high school, I love that.
They clearly were.
Yeah.
And for our audio listeners, Aubrey just has left the podcast. He had to turn off his camera because of what Brittany has just said, being as ridiculous as it was. But please continue.
Opinions sprout from everywhere. Okay.
It's a ridiculous thing to say.
After I watched this Sound of Music, I feel like this is my first time, maybe second time watching it as an adult. And even then it's been watching it on like TV. So, you know, they cut out parts.
Right. Not focused in.
Exactly. It hit me in such a way that this is now my favorite musical. What? I enjoyed it so much.
Wow.
It just felt
that's huge, sis.
Listen,
you've been ride or die for Grease for a minute.
Y'all don't understand. VHS, I'm still not going to throw it away. So sorry, Sandra D. Move over because Maria is in there, girl. And so it was just everything.
When you think of those amazing dance numbers in Grease, I can see what you were saying.
You know, I know you all, podcast land, you are just listening. I know you all can hear hateration. And that's just what happened. In this dancery. I know you all can hear, you can feel it. You can feel it in your bones when it's happening. And that's just what happened. Okay? Okay, now back to the topic at hand. Haters to the left of them, haters to the right of them. Valley and thunder. Haters. Now, the thunder that killed the dog in the mall.
Everybody gets that.
Please get that. Listen, everything that Janiyah said about her being on this journey to her truth and herself, that is the reason why this movie, this movie musical, right? Because we discovered without music, it still could have stood. Mm-hmm. It resonated so much because I feel like we should all be in this journey. We should all be in this place of, as you are walking about, to walk and always be yourself. You do not know what is going to happen when you are being authentically yourself. So being able to watch this movie and being currently on a journey where I am trying to find that part of myself, it meant so much to me to just see and to have people in her life that were encouraging that. I have that in my life as well. But in having someone, though, that is a mentor, someone that you look up to, saying like, no, I need you to just go look at that one more time because I feel like you're missing something.
Go back.
And And so I love Sankofa, right?
Sankofa.
So I love all of the principles of this movie. I even love the fact that the musical brought in something that was very serious in terms of Hitler and all of the awfulness he was and all of the awfulness he'll ever represent. And I just appreciated them bringing that in to this movie, as we know, based off of a real life story and how, of course, how everything went. But I love when musicals can do that, bring such a heavy topic to something like this. And also showing you that even if things are all just like, oh, everything is falling into place, these things are happening, I can still throw you a curveball. This is what you do with the curveball. So I just really appreciate this musical. I did not know that was going to happen when I was watching it. There were a couple of times I had to stop myself from almost crying because I was like, oh my God. I am a blind trap. And so I was like, so anyway, long story short, it absolutely gets my Edelweiss, almost the hillside of Edelweisses. And so
hillside. Well, y'all, there you have it. The Sound of Music, the film, is a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thank you for joining us, y'all. We will see you next time on The Wright Perspective. Love you, bro. Love you, sis.
Love y'all.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.